Okay, so welcome. Thank you very much for coming into an introduction in sales. And as it would sort of suggest, that we're not going to be getting into anything particularly heavy, but we are going to be getting into the introduction in sales. And it was really great to speak with Emma earlier on, who is just about to start sales. So the timing is highly appropriate. But also I recognise there are a number of, shall we say, more experienced business people where I'm guessing that, and I have to say from running my own business the last 2 years, sales is just one of those things that you have to do in addition to websites, licking the stamps, actually delivering what you do for a living and all the rest of it. So sometimes you've got to have multiple skills. So this is around just getting people comfortable with the word of sales. So if I can ask you, in the chat box, which you'll find somewhere on your screen, can I just ask you your sort of physical location, whereabouts in the country are you? That would be interesting to ask. Let's see some people. Here we go, admit all. And can I just ask you also, how did you hear about this introduction to sales sort of masterclass? Was it on Eventbrite? Was it part of my monthly sort of mailing campaign? It's always good to know for anyone in marketing. I do observe marketing is a very important subject. There's always that healthy tension, isn't there, between sales and marketing. And it would be really, really helpful to know that. And where would you currently score yourself in terms of how confident are you in selling for your organization? And I'm guessing there's going to be a variety of answers to that. Okay, so in a nutshell, I've been in corporate sales for 30 years. And I've done, I hate using that phrase, done deals, but I have done deals ranging from gym memberships at 100 quid a month up to IT outsourcing for 100 million a year for a 7-year deal, $1.3 billion. And I can tell you that the principles of selling are pretty much the same, whether you're delivering sort of training sessions for £1,000 a day, or whether you're selling an IT outsourcing contract for gazillions a year. The principles of selling, which is about satisfying a customer need, are remarkably similar. So welcome to those of you who just joined in the call. I'm now a sales coach and also a visiting lecturer at Aston Business School. And I'm also a co-presenter on a couple of podcasts, which is Heroes and Villains, which is good behaviors and bad behaviors that I've seen over the last 6 months since the pandemic. And also something called Thrive in Sales, which is around sales hints and tips, plus how to keep yourself well. Because sales can be running a business also can be a very demanding kind of way to spend your time. So about keeping ourselves healthy and well as well. Anyway, let's crack on. So we're covering today what sales is, what it isn't, some common myths and mistakes, and some great skills. And I'm hoping that there'll be enough time, which is why I'm going to rattle on through here, enough time just to showcase some great sales skills with how a Hollywood A-lister kind of does it. And I want to tell you about a sales masterclass series that I'm going to be kicking off on the 21st of October. And I've looked at this through the lens of, I wish I'd have been told this 30 years ago when I started out. It would have been really helpful to know some of this stuff that's going on. Please feel free to come off of mute and ask questions. So I'm hoping this is interactive. I will try and keep an eye on the chat box. I'll do my very best with that. Let's break out that one there. There you go. Right. So, yeah. Okay. And so next. Okay. So a guy called Peter Drucker, who's often known as the father of management thinking. So it's all very well getting fantastically creative around entrepreneurship and leadership, which is a great big subject these days, of course. He said this about business and about selling. He said, nothing happens until somebody sells something. So I hope the business owners that are on the line are going to kind of resonate with that. Unless you sell something, unless you get a customer, there's nothing to deliver. There's no operations required. There's no customer service required. And the list is kind of endless. But it all starts and stops with sales, which is why we're on the line today. So the language of selling, you're going to hear a few different terms today, but I want to concentrate on these ones since this is an introduction to selling. Everyone talks about customers, and there are sometimes we're talking to people who aren't customers. So there's a way of sort of qualifying. Suspects is anyone we're not currently doing business with. We suspect them of perhaps wanting our product or service. So it's unqualified, it's unconstrained. We just don't know the answer to that. The next step along the line will be what we call a prospect. So they're not a customer yet, they're not paying us any money, but we've had a conversation with them. We think they might be the right kind of fit for a potential customer of ours. They become a prospect. So there's normally some sort of engagement. And then on the other side of the table, us, we are going to need some great listening skills. I'm not going to go too much into listening today, other than reference it. Listening is much more than being quiet while the other person is speaking. It's an amazing science on not just listening, but Linda, thank you very much for your candor. So listening is very much not just hearing the words, but actually reflecting, processing, understanding what that means. If you've ever heard the phrase of walking in the other person's shoes, which is talking about how they feel about what they're talking about, and just really getting the sense of what's going on there. The next thing I'd like to, and this is why sales, by the way, if you're just embarking on your career or you've been in business for 30 years, sales is not a very well regarded profession. Sorry, Emma, but it's down to you and others like you, perhaps some of me as well, to somehow elevate that sales as a profession. And I'll talk a bit more about that. But the whole notion of trust has to be in place. You're never going to buy something off someone else if you don't trust them. And we'll talk about how you can get trust, and you generally earn trust, a bit like respect. You earn trust over a period of time by respecting deadlines, by displaying integrity, all of those things. We're not going to go into that too much, but these are absolutely implicit with being able to move further. Okay, right. So, and then, oh my goodness, features and benefits. So I'll get onto this in a little bit more, but features, laptops, all of that kind of stuff, that's just stuff. That it's about benefits. How does it benefit the client? That's what proper selling is all about. Okay, so it's not strong arming your prospect, we talked about prospects earlier, into submission via a half Nelson or something like that. That's very short-termist. It's not bullying or cajoling or anything like that. Sometimes influencing for sure, but not manipulation or trickery or anything like that. That's the point. And it's not taking orders as well. So if you're in the Amazon call center or in a big energy company or something like that, you're effectively taking orders. And there's a little bit of consultative, the best tariff rate or something like that. But it's not really selling. It's more customer service, I would say. So now a very important skill, nonetheless, but it's not selling in the profession that I've come to know and love. So it's influencing someone to buy a product or a service from you rather than your competition. And Nick's on the line. Plenty of people running signage companies in and around the West Midlands, Nick, right? So not short of competition. It could even be competition for a university. 128 of them in the UK, lots of competition. many thousands around the world. So, you know, are being able to articulate why you should take that student, or why you should deliver that signage service to an organization, that takes some skill. So, and the other option, of course, is that the customer becomes either so confused because they've spoken to so many people, or there's no one's really given them a compelling case to buy, that they just go away and do nothing, and they put that car purchase on hold for another year, or something happens, but actually they end up buying nothing at all. So those are possible outcomes. This is how I prefer to sort of encapsulate what selling is. You know, closing sales, closing deals, is simply a natural conclusion to a well-qualified conversation. So it's not in your face. You know, if you've heard that expression, soft words, hard facts, that's that's a great way to sell. I think the real power of selling is where the other person's buying off of you. They're almost pulling the product or the service away from you rather than you ramming it down their throat. Okay, right. So some common myths about how, if great salespeople are party animals, their life and soul of the party. I can tell you that's not the case. Some are, but most aren't. Um, you've also got to want to own a Ferrari or a great big house or something like that. I can tell you, my mate at EDS, who did the biggest deal I think in IT ever done in the UK for certainly 4.2 billion, drove round in a 35-year-old MG at the time. You would never have seen him coming, and he earned millions off that deal. You would never have seen him coming. So it's not about, and I can tell you, even if you do get, and they're wonderful cars, if you do buy one of those, don't park it outside your customer's premises. That, you know, you feed your ego for a morning, but that would cost you a lot of business in the long run, I would argue. So just be discreet. And you've got to be great at lying. Now, if anyone's seen this movie with Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen, great movie, but a relationship that's actually based on a lie. And so I saw a sign once, salesperson wanted, must look honest. And that's what we're trying to get away from. We're trying to get some integrity, some great sales skills into certainly the UK, and I hope worldwide, in terms of elevating it to a profession where it could be considered, as it is in New York, where I worked for a while, at the same level as being an accountant or a lawyer. It's respected at that level, not so in the UK. So over to you, Emma. We've got to take this forward together. Okay, right. So your role as a salesperson is to determine what the customer wants to buy. That's their needs, if you like, what the customer's needs are. Whether you can meet the customer's needs, and that could be a combination of a variety of things. Price is almost certainly in there somewhere. Timescales, can you deliver it next week? Can you deliver it next year if it's a really big thing? Is it the right kind of quality that I'm looking to buy? So, I like cars. Much as I'd love a Ferrari, I'm not in the market for one now. So I'm not going to buy that Ferrari. I'm going to buy something else, the Vauxhall Viva, or I'm going back in time. But anyway, but so just because you sell something, it may not fit your audience's budget or needs or whatever that happens to be. And also, but whether the customer can meet your needs is just as important. There's got to be a really good fit there. So they may not be able to afford your price. Now, we need to get that. We need to understand that sooner rather than later, so that we don't waste any time of our time, and we don't waste any of their time. They might not want to buy something that's as high a quality as the product or service that you sell. And so we need to qualify that. That was one of the words that was up there earlier on. And also they might need it tomorrow. We can't deliver it tomorrow. And that doesn't suit our needs. But also we may have a whole pile of, let's say, laptops or a whole inventory of something or other that we want to get rid of next week, but they don't want to buy until next year. So again, that's about qualifying that need. And also whether they're actually going to buy from you. So there's nothing worse than what I would call a slow no. Um, we've got to get no early rather than later so we can move on to the next prospect or suspect. So how do you do that? You build trust. We talked about that earlier. Vital to be able to build trust. Absolutely. Okay, right. So now here we go. Now I'm going to try something right now, which is, so this question, I'm going to ask this question sort of out loud, which is, should you sell prospects? You're talking to a prospect just. There we go. Right. So should you sell prospects what they want, what they need, or or what? How should that look? Now I'm going to try and launch this. I'm going to put this on the screen just now. I'm going to launch this polling. Now on your screen just now, you should have an option to tick or select. Should you sell a prospect what they want to buy, or what you want to sell them, or 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 what they need. Roshana, hi, welcome on the call. So let's just kind of see how that kind of looks. What they need, absolutely, 100%. Okay, 5, 6. Well, votes still coming in. There we go. Fantastic. Everyone's on the page. Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Sell them what they need. Now, so okay, I'm going to tell you that's wrong. I just want to let that sink in. Sell them what they need. There's two things here. Your interpretation, and I am perhaps over-egging the pudding somewhat, but what the customer needs and to fulfill their needs, if you like, what they want to buy to fulfill their needs, may not be the same as your experience. If you're highly experienced in your business, your customer may not be as experienced as buying signs, let's say. Forgive me, put it on your company, Nick, but as you are as experienced in the signage business, you know much more about that, I hope, and I'm sure you're right, than your prospect does. And you might say, we don't need that, Mr. Customer. So Emma's coming to you and she wants to buy whatever it is, signs for her business. And you say, well, actually, Emma, you don't want that. You want one of these. Okay, now most of the time, if that's going to work, you should absolutely do that. But sometimes, I'm going to tell you now, customers are fixated on, Nick, I know your advice is buy one of these, but actually I really want one of those. Now, this is where integrity has a bit of a gray area. I'm going to argue you should satisfy what they want to buy here and now, and you embark on a relationship to take them on that journey such that when they're kind of experientially ready to buy, this is a bit deep, but anyway, but when they're ready to buy what they actually need in your interpretation of need, then you've got a relationship, you've sold them something, you've delivered it, it's high quality, you've got great customer service, I'm assuming all those things, the relationship's in place so that you can then take it to the next level with, in your professional experience, what they need. So that's really misunderstood the question. Yeah, okay, that might have been my my use of words, Roshana. So your role as the salesperson, because sometimes, especially if it's a complex sale, so I don't know what everyone's selling on the line here, but I can tell you from my work with universities, some stuff can be really quite complicated, and also if you're trying to sell a master's program in leadership, well, I haven't even got a university degree. I would need to involve someone in the conversation that knew more about that course. I'm going to call them a subject matter expert. So it's going to be you as the salesperson of record and a subject matter expert. You may even have to get your line manager involved if it's a complex or negotiation or sale, and you're going to become an orchestra conductor, in other words. So your goal is to get the customer comfortable buying that product or service and you're going to use the subject matter expert to get them into that place. That's really, really important. Anyway, so and if you're taking more than yourself, so trying to control people in a meeting is not always easy. They say the most inappropriate things at absolutely the wrong time, and they can torpedo your opportunity. So it's really important that you brief your people on landing specific sales messages effectively and at the right time. As I said, I'm rattling through this because I want this to be a value, not just a big sales pitch. So you've got to make sure the meeting meets its objective, and you'll decide those objectives beforehand, and then you'll have the meeting with the customer. You've got to learn who the most powerful person in the room is. As much as you might have a team of people, your customer may have a team of people as well. And sometimes the most powerful person in the room isn't the most senior. It's not the managing director. And the reason I say that is when I used to sell technology into investment banks, excuse me, the most powerful person in the room was often just a vice president in a bank, an American bank. Vice president is a relatively junior role. But because they were the subject matter expert for technology, they could say, we're not buying that because of, and then some technical argument as to why it won't fit in with their infrastructure or whatever it happens to be. But they're a relatively junior person, but they're influential because of their knowledge around the subject matter in question. So just bear that in mind. It may not be the most senior, and less is absolutely more. Don't take anyone more to meetings than you absolutely need. Everyone's got to know their place. You've got to know why they're there, and they need to know why they're there as well. So no passengers. Think carefully about just in case attendees, because they can actually dilute or torpedo what's going on. Okay, so I'm going to talk about, excuse me, a best practice sales process. So number one is the very beginning of engaging with a potential customer, and number seven is right down the bottom, which is the last part of the sales process. And here are the processes on the left-hand side of the screen. I hope you can see them now. Now, I've been a bit crafty in that they're not in the right order. And I'd like you in the chat box now to have a look at those seven phases, and I'd like you to try and guess which is the very first one that's at the very start of the sales process. What comes first, do you think? I'll give you 10 seconds to think about that. Yep, lead gen. I can understand why you might say that. Excuse me. Anyone else? Number one, go-to-market strategy. Good guess. John Kroger. Have you done this before? Okay, right. So number one is going to be this one right here. Value proposition. Value proposition is literally what you sell, how your company makes money, but it's the message to the market. And so there's a combination of sales and marketing going on there, but it's literally, does your customer, your prospect, do they fit that value proposition? And if they don't, then you may not want to sell, because if, as some people on the line will tell you, if there's one thing worse than no business, it's bad business. The wrong customer fit, they're just a nightmare to work with, or they've bought the wrong thing, you've sold them the wrong thing. It can be really soak up all your time trying to manage that relationship and keep them as a great customer. So getting the value proposition just right is vital, closely followed by, once we've got those messages, we're going to have a go-to-market strategy. Are we going to go to market direct or indirect? And we'll learn all of these things on the masterclass, but that's a go-to-market strategy. Then will come, okay, we want leads, we want the right kind of leads, importantly, not just any old lead. We're going to qualify those customers. We talked about that earlier. We're going to, if it's a big sale, if it's a complex sale to a big potential customer, we have a pursuit strategy, so we know who we need to talk to in that client, what messages to land, and what the sequence of those messages should be. We're going to talk about all of that. And then hopefully we'll get to the point of negotiating and closing. Now they're very intertwined, those two, because often you can be trying to close and you end up going back to negotiation. That's why I've interlinked them like that. And then you might think that closing the sale was the last step in the process, and it's not, because, and this is where I see so many businesses kind of leaving money on the table, if you like, because they don't really look after those customers. I can tell you now, it's much more cost effective to service, to continue to sell to existing customers with existing relationships than it is to acquire new customers. It costs between 5 and 25 times as much to acquire a new customer than it does to sell to an existing customer. So please don't ignore your existing customer base. They're vital for the success of your business, and hopefully they'll become your silent sales force, your unpaid sales force. So they will come to you if you've got a great relationship, and they will come to you. They'll say, Stephen, I really like what you did for me. Can I introduce you to Emma, who is also in the market for this product or service? And all of a sudden you've got customers working on your behalf and that's a beautiful thing. So I look forward to helping you get to all those places. Okay, what's next? Here we go. Right. Okay, so you're also going to need a great set of communications skills. And as you can see from the chart here, it's quite a famous chart. I didn't make it up myself, but only as on this presentation, let's take this as an example, only 7% of the communications, what you understand, is going to be the words that I speak. Only 7%. The other 93% is going to be, and now it might be slightly different for Zoom, but in the old days when we could meet face to face, this is the number. There will be some research coming out from places like Birmingham City University that talks about, actually, this is what happens on Zoom, and I look forward to receiving that. But that 93% is split in two areas. 38% is going to be the tone of my voice. So you can hear that I'm emphasizing. You have to amplify. I can tell you this for nothing. You have to amplify what you're doing over Zoom. If you're talking to someone, you have to become theatrical in emphasizing certain words, more so than if you're in face-to-face, where you get the extra body language kind of clues. You can only see me from chest up, and that's bad enough. But the body language, you don't necessarily kind of get all of that. So you have to overemphasize. If you're selling to customers, as frankly, we will be selling to, whether they're students or potential customers or even existing customers, we will be talking to them over Zoom and over the phone for a long time to come yet. Okay, right. So also on the right-hand side, in terms of presentation risks, be this in person or face-to-face, there are three things that can really mess you up. That's young children, and we're all operating from home. So we've got young children running around. They are, and actually, I think people are pretty forgiving, even potential customers. Young children, I've got 4, although they're not so young now, but they're wonderful. If you've got animals running around the house, just be careful with that. And IT is probably the worst of all, because that happens when you're face-to-face or virtual or whatever. So your IT system can really mess up as well. So allow extra time to prepare your presentations. Okay, right, what's next? Here's a value creation model. So it's what's called the Zeman Pyramid, Z-Y-M-A-N, if you want to Google that. I had the great privilege of working with the guy who devised this, guy called Sergio Zeman, on the big deal I did with Vodafone. And this talks about the value process. Now, let's say you're in a let's say you're in a university, and you're lucky enough to have each place on your cohort oversubscribed 7 times. That would be a beautiful thing. So how is that student going to differentiate themselves, or a job applicant could be similar to, or you know, pitching for a piece of business with a great client? How are you going to differentiate yourself? If let's talk about this. So that's basically what the value stack talks about. And on the right hand side, you should see Me Too and difference. You should see a box that says salespeople should be able to get here on their own, and that is true. Your salespeople and the people that you have in your company, your subject matter experts, your managing director, they should know enough about their business and the market to help you get differentiate yourself between the rest of the pack, and add some value on your own. But to get to where you're preferred with big customers, then you might need some coaching as well. So just be, now, if you're lucky enough to have an inspirational line manager, then your line manager might give you the coaching that you need. But I would encourage you, if you know, to get coaching as and where you need it. And you may not necessarily need to pay for it, because there's plenty available for other coaching experiences. Anyway, so let's talk about, we talked about features and benefits earlier on, and IT people are notorious for telling you speed of processors, you know, like car salespeople, it's got 700 brake horsepower, it's got this, it's got that. Well, actually, what you want to know when you jump in a car like that is, how does it make you feel? I'll just pause there to emphasize, but how does it make you feel? Do you feel great when you buy that car? And depending on what car you buy is how it makes you feel. If you buy I don't know, a Volvo, you want to feel safe. Yeah, you want some style. If you want to buy another car, a Bentley, I don't know, whatever it happens to be, but it's the way it makes you feel, which is much more important than the features that it's got in the car. So let's talk about IT. You want to buy a laptop. Jill's in the market for, she wants to buy a laptop, let's say. Well, you know, over at Curry's, we sell laptops. Well, you know, that on its own isn't going to get you a deal. Loads of people sell laptops. Well, okay, we sell laptops and it will make you much more productive, let's say. Well, anyone that sells me a laptop is going to make me much more productive. You know, that's not good enough. So here's when we get into benefits. Well, okay, Mr. Customer, the way we deliver IT, let's say, to you, our customer base, it's 30% cheaper. Well, why is that? Well, it's just the way we design our systems, our data center. It's going to be uptime, much better networks, much better telecoms. It's going to be more reliable, effectively. Now, that's a great soundbite. It's much more dependable. I can understand that's a benefit. But you know what? If you're, that puts us in the difference bracket just there. Lots of people could claim that. But Mr. Customer, 75% of our clients renew their agreements at the end of the first term. That might be a 1 year or a 3 year term. So now that puts you in a very special place where you've got much more reliable systems, and you've got great customer service that you can see a Venn diagram going on there, where there's a real sweet spot where for customers that value customer service and are prepared to pay for it. And by the way, people, research from Harvard recently, people are prepared to pay a 17% premium for great customer service. So that stuff that they can just rely on without thinking, like their network, or, you know, when you go to Amazon, you just know you're going to get it next day. People will pay a premium for that convenience and that simplicity in their lives. Okay, right, what's next? So client relationship types, and I know I'm rattling through this. There's an existing customer, someone you already sell to. Now, NatWest happens to be part of Royal Bank of Scotland Group. You may not have sold into them, so your customer at NatWest, your contact, might be able to refer you. So, and that's not necessarily, that is a new piece of business, but it's on an existing relationship, just in another part of the business where you haven't sold before. I would say that's new piece of business. You can see on the right hand side is new, what I call new. That's a brand new piece of business, totally unconnected with NatWest on the left-hand side, this German bank, totally unconnected. The only connection in this instance, and I borrowed this slide from another presentation that I do, is that it was the same contact that at NatWest that I built that trust with over a period of time, moved to Commerzbank, and I kid you not, phoned me up one Thursday evening to say, if you can give me the same deal you gave me at NatWest, I can spend 2 million with you next week. And when you develop, that's not necessarily, that's just a thing. Emma, I really hope you get to that place too, where you've got such a stellar relationship that people can absolutely depend on you to deliver the goods, because people's careers are going to be based on awarding you business. Because if it all goes wrong, they won't be looking to you, they'll be looking to the person that bought it from you. So that's where the rubber meets the road. Or if you're in marketing, that's where the rubber meets the sky. But anyway, that's the 3 different types of business. And we talk about business to business and business to consumer, but actually we're talking about people to people. And that's why trust is so important. So I'll ask you now, who within your professional networks has just moved companies that you could phone maybe and start doing business with that company? I'll just park that with you right there. So here's a hierarchy of client relationships just now, from the very bottom, transactional, where you go in, let's say you buy your daily newspaper from the shop. It's not particularly, you just go there. It's a very donor, what we call a donor recipient type relationship. There's no strategy there. It's just really convenient. There's probably not even a relationship other than, hi, how are you doing today? Now, maybe you go somewhere else for a value-added relationship. Maybe you go to, I don't know, Tesco or Waitrose, whatever happens to be, for your whole weekly shop, your groceries, where you buy the newspaper, yes, of course, but all that other stuff, that's value-added. Now, maybe you're going to buy something more complex later on, and you go somewhere where you need some advice, and you need to know that you're trusted, and you need to trust the other person for that advice. So that's why I call it trusted advisor. Now, client relationships can grow beyond that. Perhaps you do so much business with a particular client, and actually they're kind of allied, that you might even, and let's talk about a case in point, you might even, if anyone knows a company called EE, the mobile phone provider, we all know them, Kevin Bacon does the adverts. Well, a few years ago, they were separate companies, BT and T-Mobile. They came together to, actually it was Orange and T-Mobile, they came together to form EE. They did so much business with each other that actually they thought maybe there's a space, the enterprise space, big customers, we can provide a value-added service and make loads of money together. And that's a joint venture or a special purpose vehicle to go and sell that service. Or if that works really, really well, then there's a merger at the very top of that. And that's where your client relationships can literally go from donor recipient over time, where all that trust and goodness is built up, and that's where you can go with client relationships. Okay, right. Now, so we're moving into common mistakes that salespeople make. Yeah, there's a scene from Kelly's Heroes, one of my favorite movies, and that's Donald Sutherland. Are you sure? Kind of look on his face. So common mistakes that people make: failing to listen, not really listening. Don't forget, listening is much more than the other, being quiet while the other person talks. Salespeople in particular just talk too much. The ratio needs to be 75% client talking, 25% you talking, and you only talk when you're going to say something of value. Okay, so you're not really hearing, not really understanding what the client really wants. And that can mean so many different things, but sometimes clients can't actually articulate what they want because they're not as experienced at buying that as you are at selling it. And that's where your value, your trust can come in. Not qualifying the sale properly. They wanted to buy product A, but you've only got product B, so you're not really qualifying properly. Or you're trying to sell them what you want to sell rather than what they want to buy. It's the typical thing of you going into the laptop, the laptop shop, and you want to buy the latest, greatest Apple machine, but they've got a pile of Windows 10 laptops out the back that they want to sell cheap, and there's a mismatch. But you might also just be able to say, well, actually, I know you want this, but I'm just going to let you know we have got these at a discount if you're interested. That would be selling, absolutely influencing, but it wouldn't be strong arming them to the floor and managing a sale out of them. That wouldn't be wrong. So you leave money on the table, you don't negotiate properly, and you only sell them a little bit of what they want to buy rather than the whole thing. So you leave money on the table. And if you're not careful because you haven't qualified things properly, you'll be wasting your time because it'll end up in a no sale, or worse, you're wasting your client's time. The features v benefits thing, I've already talked about that. You've got to ask, so what? So it's got an i7 processor, which so what? Well, it's really fast. You'll be able to do much more quickly with an i7. That's what the so what means. And also, you could be, if it's a big company, you could be talking to the wrong person. You want to sell whatever it is, IT outsourcing, let's say, and they're just not capable of making that decision in isolation. There might be 25 other people that you need to talk to before you can ever get to sell that product. So just be aware of talking to the right person. Right, now, this is where, we're right on time. This is where I need you to just kind of, I want you to look at some sales skills, which are, I think, excellent. And I'm going to hope and pray that the IT thing works out all right. Okay, so, right, this is, can you give me a thumbs up if you can, and I press play, if you can hear this? I'm going to play this for about a minute all the way through, and then I'm going to go back and unpack it. Does anyone here that recognizes what's going on? Does it recognize this program? Okay, right, so here we go.
Your money, Mr. Kimber. Rescued from the Lay brothers and returned to you with a request for a fair hearing. Your own protection is failing, Mr. Kimber. Your boys are taking cuts. I want to suggest that from now on, you contract out your racetrack security to the Peaky Blinders. We'd be saving you a lot of money, Mr. Kimber. A lot of money. In return, you give us 5% of the take and 3 legal betting pitches at every race meeting north of the River Severn, rising to 6 after 1 year if we are all satisfied with the service. What do you say, Mr. Kimber?
I say talk business to my accountant. I want to dance.
Okay, right. Let's rewind that now. Hopefully, you'll have recognised that clip from Peaky Blinders, and it's a great bit of selling. And I want to tell you why it's a great bit of selling. So let's just rerun it again, just for a couple of minutes, and I'll run you through some great skills. Here we go. Okay, right. So he's made an entrance. He's now, you're not going to rock up to your customer with a bag load of cash, and I hope you're not at the very least, but you are going to get into reception. You're not going to look slovenly. You are going to look professional in the eyes of the client. Not professional to you, professional in the eyes of the client. So if you're going to see a creative company, they will have a different environment, if you like, than if you're going to an accountancy. So it's got to be appropriate for the day. You're going to make an entrance. You're at least not going to give them any reasons to disengage from you. You're just going to be professional, great smile. And if you're on Zoom, the rules still apply. So just because you're working virtually doesn't mean to say you can go to meetings in your pajamas. Okay, right. Let's see what Let's see what happens next.
Your money, Mr. Kimber. Rescued from the Lay brothers and returned to you with a request for a fair hearing.
Right. So now, so what he's done there, he's done something which will really flatter your clients. He's done his homework. He's done some research on that client. And bear in mind, we're talking about a particular era in time. He's found out that the Lee brothers are skimming, that's what it's called in that industry, are skimming, they're effectively stealing money from this. Now, he's not a suspect, he's a prospect of Thomas Shelby's. Remember, he's a prospect, it's a qualified opportunity. We've almost certain this guy is capable of buying our service because of the research that we've done. So Thomas has come to him with a trade, and the trade is, I'm going to give you all this money because I found out this is going on in your operation in return for, it's called conditionality, in return for a fair hearing. So he's prepared, he's going to prepare Billy Kimber now, the gangster in the center of that picture, for a pitch. Let's see what happens next.
Your own protection is failing, Mr. Kimber. Your boys are taking cuts. I want to suggest that from now on, you contract out your racetrack security to the Peaky Blinders. Okay,
right. So the fair hearing is he's making a proposal. Instead of leaving your business with your current partner, your current vendor, who are just robbing you blind, I'm going to suggest you contract out your racetrack security, which is a business he so happens to be in, to the Peaky Blinders. So there's the conditionality. Don't stop giving business to them. Give it to me because we're honest. Well, we all know, anyone that's seen that program more than once will all know that honesty is probably with a small h, not a big H. Okay, let's see what happens next.
We'll be saving you a lot of money, Mr. Kimber. A lot of money. In return, you give us 5% of the take and 3 legal betting pitches at every race meeting north of the River Severn, rising to 6 after 1 year if we are all satisfied with the service.
Brilliant. Okay, so the proposal there is that we're going to, so what's this proposal? We're going to save you loads of money. We're not going to steal anything. And the proposal also is that we want 5% of the take to provide security at 3 racetracks. And here, again, more conditionality. He set the scene to grow the account, Billy Kimber's account, to double it after 12 months, if we're all happy with the service. Not just Billy Kimber's happy, but Thomas Shelby's happy as well. So he gets the chance not to proceed with year 2 onwards if that customer's just too much trouble. So that's his get out. Now, nowadays, we would need a piece of paper that kind of sets all that out. But I've got to believe honor amongst thieves and all of that, that's where we're going with that. So that's the offer. Okay, right. So what happens next?
What do you say, Mr. Kimber?
Okay, right. So have you put your hands up if you've ever been told in sales you have to ask for the order? Anyone heard of that before? Yeah. Okay, one. Okay, so there's asking for the order. Please place your business with me. Please buy this laptop from me. Or there's what's called a trial close, which is you're not really asking for the order. You want to know what the other person's thinking. So what do you say, Mr. Kimber? That's not quite the same. It's what we call a bit of a test, a bit of a trial close. Let's see what happens next. Oh, okay. So what happened? What happened next? And there was about, that could have gone so wrong.
North of the River Severn.
There we go. Right, forward. There we go. Right. Okay. Right. There we go. Okay. Right. So the technology is doing its thing. So There was about 4 seconds there of silence. That's the point. 4 seconds of silence. And if you've ever been in a meeting with a customer where there is, you might also call it a pregnant pause, but when there's silence to the uninitiated is absolutely terrifying, because like everyone's thinking about the same thing, which is, okay, well, what's happening now? Everyone's panicked, you lost control, what's going on? And I can tell you now, as a salesperson, silence is your friend. So learn, first of all, not to be terrified by it. Secondly, understand what's going on. You don't need to fill in that silence. I am going to finish this off because it's really important. But one second. Here we go. Let's go to there. Okay.
I say talk business to my accountant. I want to dance.
Okay, right. So what happened there is there was that silence. Thomas Shelby very sensibly waiting for an answer. That's what he was doing. So he was in control. He embraced that silence. Really, really important. Waiting to see what the other person was going to say. Now, Billy Kimber, what did he say? He said this. He said, I say talk business to my accountant. And what's that? That's not a no. It's also not a yes either. Talk business. Now, in business, we would call that due diligence. We would call that, and 100 years ago when this took place, talk numbers to my accountant. You will come across that. If my accountant agrees that you're going to save us this money and your business case looks good, it's still not a yes, but there's a good chance that we'll be able to do something. So that was the point. The point is we're going in the right direction. We've now entering a new phase of the sales process called negotiate and close. We've done the pitch, we've qualified, we've got a pursuit strategy, we're talking to the right person, and we've just got. Now let's see what happens next. What's the accountant's face here? Okay, so the accountant just gives the wryest smile. He's heard that line before from his boss, and his boss is basically saying, so that's an important bit of body language. His boss is basically saying, if this works, we're going to be doing business with these guys. In fact, I would argue in terms of body language, that's a done deal. That accountant has got to find a way to make this work. And the reason he's going to do that is because if there's one thing thieves or gangsters don't like, it's dishonesty. So the Lee brothers nicking money, skimming money off their take, he's not going to take. And Billy Kimber had a particular way of dealing with people like that, which we're not going to go into. Anyway, so okay, we're pretty much at the end, and I'm on time. So I'm going to ask you now. So just kind of ask you to process what you've kind of heard. What can I just ask you in the chat box, which I'm on right now? What one thing have you heard in the last 57 minutes where you think, okay, that was really interesting. I want to know some more about that, or this really resonated with me? Is there a word or a bit of advice or something that's kind of meant something to you? So what stood out for you, if you like, and also, what one thing are you going to start doing as a result of this, or what one thing are you going to stop doing as a result of, for my colleague, use silence. Incredibly powerful tool. Thank you, David, for that. Listen more. Yeah, it's a really important skill. When I worked on a master's course at Lancaster University, we had a role on that program called, everyone's heard of keynote speaker, but we had a role called keynote listener. and I won't go into, but it's an incredibly tiring role. Listening, effective listening, uses absolutely all mine anyway, all your intellectual resources, because it's not just about the words, it's the way they're said, it's the body language, it's the context of the meeting. It's incredibly powerful. Take a closer look at the existing client base. Great. On the 80-20 rule, existing clients are right up there with Pareto's law. Thank you, Nick, for that. Okay, so if my point is, and if you'll allow me 30 seconds to do just a bit of a sales pitch here. If you like what you've heard, there's loads more material where that's coming from. It's been developed over 30 years of business-to-business sales. There's a 7-step sales program, which is £45 per module, if you like, or per masterclass, which you can buy at a reduced rate if you go for 7 at one time. But there's also an early bird until the end of tomorrow night, where you can get all 7 for £200. I can give you a promo, beg your pardon, and give you access to that offer until tomorrow night. So it's not you. If there's a colleague or perhaps a work colleague or someone in your network that you think could advantage from that, so take advantage of that, then I would love them to join the course. It will be fun, but most of all, it'll be incredibly useful, and it will transform your sales capabilities in your organization. Okay, so and if anyone wants to ask me any questions on that, please, my email address is keith@salesmarvel.co.uk. I beg your pardon. Just wrapping up now. So sales, what's sales all about? Thank you, Julia, that's kind. Develop excellent community. Even if I never see you again, I hope to, but develop excellent communication skills. That is at the heart of great selling. Not talking, but listening, especially listening. Learn to love solving customers' problems. Understand what the problem is. We'll tell you more about that on the Masterclass series, but customers don't come to you if everything's all right. They're coming to you because there's something they want to achieve. It could be solving a problem, could be opening a new store, whatever it happens to be. So they might want more signs from you, or just to replace their old tired signs, or they've got some new logos and branding going on, but they're coming to you for a reason. So learn how to solve their problems and get great on the phone. Even when we're out of all this nonsense called COVID, which will be some time yet, the phone and Zoom will still be vital. There's been what's called a pattern interrupt of behavior over the last 6 months, where everyone's comfortable working from home. Customers are comfortable engaging over video. There will always be times when you've got to be face-to-face, always. That's human nature. We still need that contact. But get great at that 93% that we talked about earlier. And God, if I'd have known this 20 years ago, focus on the deal, winning the deal, because the deal is what gets you the commission. Don't focus on the commission, and certainly don't spend it before you've got it. So if I sound parental, then it's because I've got 4 children. Okay, right. So apart from the masterclass thing, next week, pretty much the same time, 11:30, will be another free webinar on LinkedIn basics. So if there's anyone in your organization, there's no obligation. Come along to that. It's free, but it is basic. And you'd be, I did this, the reason I'm doing basics is because I'm well over time now, so I'll wind up. But I was surprised. I did a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce, a particular section of Birmingham Chamber of Commerce. I was slightly surprised by the very basic nature of the questions that came out of that, where some of the seniors, the MDs, the FDs, they want to take more of an active role on LinkedIn, but they're asking some quite basic questions, and I thought, well, they can't be alone. So I'm putting this on for anyone. It will be also focused on job seeking. Unfortunately, that's the time that we're in. So, but it will cover all the basics. It's no obligation, but you're very welcome to attend. You'll get a follow-up email from me with the link to this recording and then the link to next week as well. You're all very welcome to do that. All that remains to say is thank you very much for listening and engaging. And I hope it was a little bit fun, and I hope it was a lot of help as well. So thank you very much for this. And I hope to see you very soon indeed. Have a brilliant rest of the day, everyone.